This is a book review of the Epic Collection, Avengers West Coast, Tales to Astonish. Now this is volume 3, covers the period 1987 to 1988. 32 years ago now, 33 years ago, quite a while. Now this is West Coast Avengers, issue 25 to 37, annual issue 2, obviously West Coast Avengers, Avengers annual number 16, and Marvel graphic novel Emperor Doom. And it includes about 450 pages, obviously predominantly in colour, from Marvel Comics, and it came out in 2020. And there's the list of all the previous ones. So you've got Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3 and Volume 4 now. So hopefully Volume 5 shortly, whenever. Now it's great, the title, Tales to Astonish. Of course, that's an old comic that Ant-Man used to appear in, and obviously with the Wasp. And there's a nice connection, lots of great bits of Tales to Astonish in it. So I think that's a great sort of thing. And they are pretty good at these tales. So I'm just going to go through it. But before I do any further, here's all the various people involved in the work. All the colourists, letterers, inkers, artists and writers, of course, and other people. And also all the list of all the comics there that are included in this book. This book's got it all. This has got Emperor Doom. Good old Emperor Doom, where he controls the entire world via Kilgrave. There's also Submarine in the story. Also, of course, all the Avengers. So it's East Coast as well as West Coast. So you've got a really classic story. And, well, Doom controls everyone but one person. And, of course, what happens? Well, things fall apart, of course, because obviously otherwise Doom would rule the world forever. Well, why he ever seems to want to rule the world all the time, I do not know. Because at this point, he realises that things are not so great because he has to worry about the lighting, he has to worry about the production of wheat here and there, and also loads of other issues. I'm not certain why he just didn't set up a load of Doom bots all over the place, you know, sort of help him along. Why does he need to just do it all? Surely that was a bit too much for one person to run every single fine detail of everything. Next story, goes on to the next story, is the Grandmaster. A bit another character, a bit like Doom in many ways. He always seems to want to rule the universe, or keeps always doing various games that you always know he's going to lose. And it starts with a game as well. You've got baseball there, you've got that great, I love that, with Wonder Man just throwing the ball and it sort of bursts into flame. And then you've got Thor hitting with his hammer. I mean, slightly, that's a bit odd, I think. Surely, I don't think there can be many balls that would have survived that. That would literally be... Well, anyway, Silver Surfer turns up, and you've got the storyline with the Collector. Now, there's a whole load of story with the Collector. Obviously, at one point he was dead, then he's alive again, and then the Grandmaster, and so on. There's the usual sort of complexities there with those stories. Well, what happens? You've got both of the Avenger teams and they've got to battle each other. So you've got a real great epic conflict, a bit like the Avengers versus Defenders story, but this time it's Avengers versus Avengers. And it's quite a nice mix of what you've got, obviously Ant-Man, obviously not Ant-Man in this, but Hank Pym, and you've got the Wasp battling away. You've got Moon Knight, you've got against Black Knight. And obviously sometimes you think one will win, that you think, oh, that's a bit strange. Why would they win? But anyway, it's still a pretty good story. And of course, as usual, the Grandmaster thinks he's won, as he always does. He always thinks, gloats madly. I mean, I'm sorry, that's a bit of a spoiler, but you can guess what. It's always halfway through the story, and this was an annual. So you've got another annual, which was the 15 Avengers Battle the Warriors of Death, giant-sized annual for the Avengers. So you got the day Death died. So, of course, Death doesn't die. You know that. So, Grandmaster, he always loses. I don't know why he bothers, but he always does. But I really liked it because he brings back a load of characters that's into the storyline. That's like Korvac and those sort of people. And lots of other ones that are just Green Goblin, those sort of ones. So, got some great little stories where, and obviously all the Avengers are, you got like Drac the Destroyer as well, obviously She-Hulk as well. So you've got great little storyline. And of course, when they die, the Avengers die, it obviously adds to. However, it's a great ending. And you can guess it. Obviously, the Grandmaster's going to lose. Otherwise, that's the end of the universe. So clearly, Grandmaster loses. But it's a real good. I just say every time, all the time. Why doesn't he always why doesn't he go somewhere else? Why does he always have to battle the Avengers? Surely he knows by now he's going to lose. We love the story, of course. However, I love this one here. West Coast Avengers against, just one actually. It's Wonder Man versus the Abomination. Now, poor old Abomination doesn't do particularly amazingly well. I always remember the Abomination when he was battling the Hulk in the first one. He was virtually unstoppable. Now, the poor guy is sort of like, virtually anyone seems to be able to stop the Abomination now. But anyway, but it's still a great conflict. I really like the artwork as well for this one, which is unusual because Al Milgrom never seems to be immensely popular. And yeah, I found actually the art, well, actually, to be fair, it's probably because of the inking. Actually, I quite like this one. And you've got Abomination. Now, the Abomination is not the Abomination, of course, the original Abomination. Probably that's the reason why he doesn't. But this is Tyrannus, good old Tyrannus. He's gone downhill, that poor guy. He was like running this under. Well, I remember in the early ones in the Hulk. Tyrannus was pretty good, but since then he's sort of steadily gone down. God, poor guy. However, you got Zodiac in the next story. I really love this one. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it, actually. I thought, Zodiac, Scorpio. But it's got a nice twist, actually, and there's some good bits in it. And also it's quite good because you've got a few bits in the Avengers as well. That sort of nice twist in the storyline, which I thought was quite good. I loved a bit here. This is quite good. You've got Mockingbird, where she goes to the communicator and she contacts. You've got Nick Fury there, and of course he's having a shower and he's suddenly a bit annoyed that Mockingbird has contacted him in the middle of his shower. I mean, he's the top guy. What does he expect? He's always on, what's his name? You think he'd have a sort of communicator within the shower. He's obviously Zodiac. We haven't seen them in ages. Of course, they were in the Avengers, 120, I think, was about the issues. I really enjoyed those ones, as well as, of course, in the earlier sort of like 72, 73 sort of period with Daredevil, those sort of stories. And then you've got Starcross, crossed out there, 0 Hour for Zodiac. So that's yet another good old massive battle between all the various characters in Zodiac. I mean, it's not really given much detail, particularly about any of the individual members of the Zodiac. And they're actually quite different from the Zodiac that I'm familiar with. I must admit, I don't recall some of these characters at all in the original Zodiac stories. So you got that. And there's good old Mockingbird. Mockingbird had a story before, and I haven't read that story yet. So I'm looking forward to read that one, where it was the Phantom Rider. And you've got, and she keeps trying to turn around to Hawkeye and say, look, I did this or did that, various things. And of course, Hawkeye's got a very, very opinion that the Avengers never kill anyone kind of thing. They always rescue everyone and all that sort of stuff. However, of course, Mockingbird, and she always tries to say it, but then it also seems to be something comes up or problem or can't. So it drifts on the storyline, but it's quite good. Like good old character there, got Zodiac. And you've got Moon Knight story. That's a good story. I love this is actually quite a good story as well. I really enjoy. I didn't think I was going to enjoy this one, but it actually turned out to be quite a fun one. And this is the Composite Avenger. I mean, it's just a silly story. It's just a single story where you've got this story go all the way through. They keep an alien invasion, sort of like the Kree, the Skrulls, but this alien invasion. I don't know why they turn around and say, why does everyone always have problems with the Earth? They always, it seems that, but we're going to go there and scouting party. We're going to send on someone and we're going to keep trying to, and the Examiner, you've got the Examiner in this story. And I think it's just quite nice the way they battle all the way through. And it's really a fun little story. Doesn't go anywhere, but it's a great little yarn and thoroughly enjoyable. I think that's I like those sort of one-off stories where you sort of have a good laugh at the end of that. Anyway, you've got the next story, and this one's the Phantom Rider. So we've obviously got finally getting to the point where Mockingbird has to face up to poor old Hawkeye, etc. And you've got Phantom Rider, of course, Ghost Rider as he was known back in the 1967 comics. which I'm surprised they've never released in a complete collection or any sort. Actually, I would love to see a Western series. Western, sort of, not maybe complete, but sort of a series, collection of Western stories. Two Gun, etc., Rawhide, Ghost Rider, all those sort of people. Like I say, unfortunately, I had to change his name because, of course, it was suddenly. You got Mockingbird. You got a really nice battle, of course. Phantom Rider and Mockingbird. They've obviously got this thing. I've recently just got the more recent Mockingbird stories, and Phantom Rider is still a character that's going around. Well, of course, he's a ghost, and he's a. Don't he ever wants to give up? This is an odd one. Well, I like this story. This story was very nice, where Mockingbird suggests that they go on a holiday. And I always like that sort of thing. I think sometimes that's one of the things that's quite lacking. I'm actually slightly disappointed in many ways that it was done, the storyline, they could have actually had the story of the holiday for maybe the first book, but they went straight into the story. So obviously it doesn't last long. But I quite like that sort of thing where they all go off camping and have a sit around the campfire kind of story. Just a nice sort of nothing much happens kind of story until maybe the last panel. But that doesn't happen. You've got this weird sort of massive well, I don't know what he was in the story. Very odd. With 33, you've got a very unusual cover. You've got Wonder Man versus some apes. I mean, that does appear in the story, but it's just really odd. It's not really the central part of the story, but anyway. You've got Moon Knight becomes a member of the West Coast Avengers. Not that they know much about Moon Knight, but they sort of obviously accepted him into the team. But you go straight into this one. Tales to Astonish, the man in the anthill. And this, of course, a Hank Pym story. And the thing about it, that, of course, was the title of the first Ant-Man story. Well, the first Hank Pym story. Not the first Ant-Man, that was issue 35. Issue 27, the man in the anthill. Didn't have him as Ant-Man at all. He sort of threw, at the end of that, he sort of pulls out sort of this stuff away. That's it. I'm not going to do any more. But however, by issue 35, he's back again, and he's Ant-Man at that point. So it's nice that bit of a. But also the thing is, we learn a bit more about his wife, Maria, and obviously it's her family as well. So you've got it goes here discussing Maria Travailla. Oh my God, sort of Wasp says. And I love the bits, they've got some absolutely great bit of artwork where they've obviously done the story similar style to the old Tales to Astonish. And and also not only that, a lot of the old villains turned up as well. I mean, there's a whole batch of them because the thing is they had some really quirky villains back in the old Tales to Astonish. I love those villains. And they just turn up in this. You've got Comrade X, those sort of people, The Voice, and so on and so on. Lots of characters suddenly turn up. Actually, I'm surprised they had never made them into a super team, so you could have a sort of, they could regularly appear. It's really good to see, because sometimes when Tales to Astonish, what happened, you got obviously the characters there. These characters appeared, and they were beaten by the Ant-Man, and that was it. And there's the same like with Iron Man and lots of those stories. Quite often, you had their one appearance, and that was it. So it's really nice that all these characters turn up. However, there is a big twist in the story because, well, got Scarlet Witch and Vision. I'm sorry, this is some spoilers, but it's without saying you just can't go through a book and say, because otherwise I just say nothing happens, and then it would be pointless. However, you got Scarlet Witch, the Vision, and of course, guess who turns up? Well, I'm not going to spoil that bit. But even nicer is, you got the story leads on to another story, and you've got Doc Doom turns up in the story. That's quite good. I really enjoyed that, the Doc Doom story. Very unusual one. The voice of Doom. But not the Doom that we're normally familiar with. Though I must admit, I've lost track of who Doom is anymore. So you got I Am Doom there. It's obviously a tiny little kid. It's a bit like Kang, who knows anymore who the right Kang is? I certainly don't. However, you got some nice twists in that storyline as well. I must admit, I love old Ant-Man here, or Hank Pym. Of course, he's not Ant-Man in this, but he's got all his collection of stuff where he obviously a little car and thing, which obviously, of course, was something like they did in the film. I just love all the bits and pieces he's obviously got in his pocket. Though how he quickly finds them is a bit tricky when you've got tons of stuff in your pocket, then you just pull out just the right piece of equipment at the right moment. Anyway, that's a mere quibble of the storyline there. But I just thoroughly enjoyed that, and also it was really quite nice. It was a nice combination with Hank Pym, also like with MODOK, Crimson Dynamo, etc., Titanium Man, loads of characters that sort of, and it's nice sort of blends them all into one storyline, which is really quite good. Anyway, the final one, Avengers Dissemble. The final issue of the book is an unusual one because it's basically the Avengers, or the West Coast Avengers, I should say, completely fall apart. I mean, that's quite normal actually with the Avengers. So, however, of course, you know that by the next volume, they will all be back together again. Nothing ever lasts that long with these sort of things, but there's conflicts that have been brewing for quite a way through this book, and it all comes obviously to a head in the final one. And it's a real good ending, and nice guest appearance as well turns up, so that's really good. Bonus material, slightly disappointing. I must admit, I really love these epic collections for bonus material. This one, sadly, has got very limited bonus material. But still, I've actually thoroughly enjoyed this West Coast Avengers. This is obviously volume 3. I've got volume 1 and 2 coming soon, so I'll be able to read that. I know it's slightly out of order, but what can you do? I enjoyed volume 4. So volume 3 has been thoroughly enjoyable, and I'm looking forward to obviously the other volumes as well. So I think this is totally recommended.